Hello and welcome to the We All Follow podcast. My name is Matt Fox. I am your host. Today, we are joined with a skeleton crew of Nigel. How you doing, Nigel?
Yeah, good man, good.
You good, you well? Early morning here. We are recording. It is 8 a.m. on Saturday, the 29th of November. You like that date format?
30th of November, yeah.
2024.
It's 30th here. It's
I
29th
didn't say
late.
the 30th. I
Yeah.
added the one. I carried the one in my head. 30th of November. It's Saturday morning. It's about to be a wonderful day of football. Whoa, that's crazy. Um, it's gonna be a great day. Why does my face look like that? That's insane. Um, well, here we go. Let's try it back. What did I do? Oh, there we go. I'm back. It's gonna be an awesome day of football. Follow us on X at We All Follow Pod. Get all of our updates. It's awesome. Like, follow, subscribe on YouTube. Nigel, what's your moment of the week? It was a busy week of football. It's gonna be like this until March. So you better get ready.
We could have multiple moments of a week here. We could have what do we go with? Do we go with Arsenal thrashing Sporting? Do we go with Man City getting battered by Spurs and then throwing away a 3-goal lead against Feyenoord? Do we go with Pep self-mutilating? Do we go with the return of Kieran Tierney? Do we go with Ethan Winera's Premier League first goal? Do we go with me being absolutely spot on in last week's predictions, which is my moment of the week? I said Fulham versus Wolves, 5 goals, and Wolves win. What's the score? 4-1, Wolves win. That's my moment of the week because Mystic Nige struck again. What you said?
I would have said it if I wasn't on mute, but I said, per usual, making us all look bad. You know, it was a wonderful week of football. You had upsets, you had comebacks, you had, some teams going into Europe and getting their knocking off a team that had, what was it, 18 months of without a loss at home. You know, but my moment of the week comes courtesy of some statistics. And I just wanted to bring this up. And hey, if you're watching this, put your moment of the week down in the comments. All right, hit us with what your moment of the week was. If you think that we're lying and that we're stupid and they have really bad ideas, put it in the comments. So this week, there are two players, two Premier League players. One had 2 goals and missed a penalty. The other had, in all competitions, the other had 2 goals and 2 assists, including a penalty that was made. The former is Mohamed Salah. The latter is Bukayo Saka. Saka getting in with the 4GA against harder competition. We're talking about a team playing a team that was in 4th when the game started versus playing bottom of the barrel Southampton, right? And then going away in Europe to one of the hardest places to play, right, at Sporting, versus hosting what's honestly been, like, as you can read the names off of the team sheet, but what has genuinely been a pretty dreadful Real Madrid side. So that's my moment of the week. It's pretty crazy though, because when I started digging into the statistics, like, honestly, the rate that both of these guys are on is absurd. And the fact that Saka's even in this conversation is crazy. It's absolutely crazy because you're talking about over, let me just finish real quick. Over 1,500, a little over 1,500 minutes, Salah has 12 goals and 10 assists. 3 of those goals were penalties. Over 1,350 minutes, Saka has 6 goals and 9 assists, one of those being a penalty. Our GA per 90 for Salah is 1.29. And the GA per 90 for Saka is 1. Like, both of these guys are playing outside of their minds. It's crazy.
The funny thing is with Saka is, you see it on social media all the time. People comparing players to Saka. Who's better, Foden or Saka? Who's better? Palmer or Saka. Who's better, Yamal or Saka? Right? Who's better, Madueke or Saka? No one ever says who's better, Foden or Palmer. Saka is the yardstick, and everyone's come and everyone's fell away. Who's talking about Foden now? Where's Foden? Where's Phil Foden? Where's this player of the year from last season? Where's his consistency? He had a good 6 months. Bukayo Saka made his debut for Arsenal 6 years ago. Yesterday, I think it was 6 years ago. Yesterday, 6 years ago. He's just turned 23. Made his debut just after he turned 17. And in them 6 years, I think four of them seasons has been an unreal rate, including this year, So three and a half seasons have been absolutely unreal rate. In his first season and a bit, he played a lot of left back.
Yeah.
So imagine what it'd have been like if he'd have played them seasons in his position. What is that now? So
it's crazy because it's one of those situations where you have the what do they call it when they have when the greyhounds race, they have the little thing that runs across the track that makes them all want to go. That's Mohamed Salah, right? And it's so far ahead of everybody that it's like kind of skews how good the players are behind him, right? He's been so good for so long that it's really hard and almost impossible to compare other players to him. And I think that's why Bukayo Saka has become the yardstick, so to speak, right? Because he is that guy who's been present during that time, and his numbers are quote unquote achievable, right, compared to the other players that we're looking at. But it's starting to, in my opinion, it's starting to be, there's Salah up here, then there's Bukayo Saka, obviously a little bit distance behind him, and then everybody else is way behind them. Kind of like how the XGA chart was last year at the end of the year, where it was like Man City, Liverpool, and Arsenal were in this tier up here, and then everybody else was like on the 50th percentile because the difference was so massive. I think that's kind of how it's become with those two players. And with every performance, Saka is going out there and he's looking better, right? He's improving, and now he did that without Odegaard, right? You watch the game, the sporting game, and the way that they have to react covering him when Odegaard's there versus when he's not.
This is a difference when Odegaard plays. You can't send 2 or 3 players. You can't send 3 players to go and mark Saka. All of a sudden, Odegaard takes players away from Saka because they're thinking, "Oh, if he's got the ball, then we're going to have to try and stop him." So what you saw Sporting do. Forest did it as well. Forest sent 2 players to Odegaard. Forest sent 2 players onto Martin Odegaard to try to cut the ball out. Only problem is, if you've got Yuri and Timber, Thomas Partey, Jorginho, people like that, who are super progressive in the holding midfield slot, it goes into Odegaard, it quickly comes out of Odegaard back to them, and then all of a sudden it's into Saka's feet, and we've got an overload where we've got Saka going one-on-one against your fullback because you committed players to Odegaard to try and close him down from playing the pass. And all of a sudden that ability to go vertical quickly to Saka, we also did it on the other side where we went vertical to Trossard quickly against Forest. Went really quick, went from centre-back to winger really quick. And it caught them off guard. We couldn't double up then. And we did it against Sporting. Sporting was great.
But that's all predicated on the dynamic fullbacks, right? Because in Forest you had Calafiori, who's running forward, who's making runs, who's receiving the ball, who can receive and pass in tight spaces. Timber on the other side, who had, I mean, one of the performances of the season, in my opinion. Might be a little bit of a hot take, but I mean, in terms of the Arsenal world, just like underlapping. Oh, he did his first overlap that I had seen. He was everywhere. And that's the other part of it, right? Is like, yeah, you can ping it out to the wide guys, but if you don't have a third option coming, that's dynamic, that can receive and pass the ball in tight spaces, right? Then the decision making nexus is different. But let's take the opportunity to move into the table. Let's go through the table real quick. So this is obviously, like we said, after the Brighton
Yeah.
Southampton draw. But as of the way the table stands right now, we have Liverpool, Brighton, Man City on 23 points, Chelsea on and Arsenal on 22, then Spurs, Forest, Villa, who are continue to be on a slide. As we discussed last week, you missed it, but we talked about that. Fulham, Newcastle, and Brentford. That's rounding out the top 10. Newcastle, obviously, then Brentford, Man United moving up into 12th from 14th. Bournemouth, West Ham, Everton, Leicester, and Wolves right outside the drop zone. Leicester just making the change and sacking Steve Cooper, which is kind of unexpected after those results. I mean, how unexpected can it be at this point in the season? But also, I think it was a wee bit unfair. You might have more to say about that. And then currently, Ipswich, Palace, and Southampton in the relegation zone. What do you think about the Cooper firing, Nigel?
Well, I don't think it was. I don't think it was motivated by their position in the table. To be fair, not from what I've heard anyway. I think it's more senior player led, where some senior players took a little bit of a dislike to the tactics, so to speak, and made their voices heard.
Tactics or team selection or a little bit of both?
A little bit of both, I think. Saying that though, Ruud van Nistelrooy is on the market, right? Ruud van Nistelrooy leads Man United to 4 wins out of 4 in caretaker role. Ruud van Nistelrooy won a league title as PSV manager. He's not stupid, Ruud van Nistelrooy.
That was when they hadn't lost at home for quite some time, right? Under his care, and then it bled over into the next guy.
Ruud's not stupid. All of a sudden, this bloke's on the market because Man United decide we're just going to cut ties. I mean, penny for his thoughts, because he obviously went. That was my moment of the week, weren't it? But last week, but penny for his thoughts. He goes into Man United thinking if Eric goes, then I'm going to be the next in line, and then he gets shipped out. So I thought it was going to be. I thought either someone is going to sack the manager now and take him. But I didn't expect it to be Leicester. I thought it would have been Southampton or Palace. I thought Southampton or Palace would have sacked the manager. Even Everton, possibly. I thought one of them three might have got rid and took Van Nistelrooy now. I did not expect it to be Leicester. I thought Leicester were performing above what we could really hope for. They should have got a result against Chelsea. Do some horrendous refereeing,
and that was without Buonanotte, as noted on this podcast last week, who was suspended, right? So that's the game. The game is the game, right?
Yeah, but I thought it would have been one of them three. I didn't expect it to be Leicester, but he's a good manager, Ruud van Nistelrooy, and I can't blame Leicester for jumping and making the change. But
honestly, I think it's kind of ballsy, right? Because like that's very rare to see. Obviously, any if you ever American sports, Monty Jones has this theory about coaching, and he's like, I could make the case for. He talks about the NFL. 20 out of the 32 NFL managers being fired at any time. I can make the case. Usually they don't do it, right? So like you can make the case if you want to make the case, right?
Chicago Bears weren't doing badly with a rookie quarterback this year. They sacked their head coach yesterday after Thanksgiving because Matt Eberflus got 16 seconds of game time wrong. They should have spiked the ball, should have taken a timeout. Instead, they run the clock down, failed play, and didn't get a chance to kick a field goal to tie a game against Detroit. And then he gets sacked because of that. 16 seconds. And this is pretty similar, I think. I think Cooper. I think he's been. Steve Cooper put it this way. I think he'll either return to a team who are in the relegation places and fighting, or he will get a job at one of the top end championship sides and probably come back up.
I mean, to be honest, like I think they were gonna avoid relegation with Steve Cooper. You know what I mean? I think that was pretty. I could say that pretty confidently. Um, but yeah, I mean, if I'm the Leicester owner and I'm like, I can get Eredivisie winning manager Ruud van Nistelrooy, and like I only have to pay Steve Cooper a couple $1 million for his troubles, then sign me the fuck up. Pardon my
Mm.
language. Um,
I
so
mean,
like that's what I said.
on paying out. Did you know that since Sir Alex Ferguson walked out of Old Trafford in his last game, Man United have spent £80.6 million on dismissing managers stroke executives. So in 11 years, spent 80.6 million, average of 8 million quid a year, near enough.
That's wild, man. That's about how much they paid for Casemiro, who's about as useful as those managers. But that's neither here nor there. Uh, let's get into this week, man. We have an exciting week of matches. It's like I said, it's a whirlwind. I hate so here's one of my pet peeves is when they say 3 games a week, because I'm like, if it's Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday, then like is your week starting on Sunday or Monday? It depends on how
Exactly.
you look at the calendar. But I prefer to say games every 3 to 4 days, which is
Yeah.
accurate and demonstrates the overall even worse period of time, how intense of a strain it is on your body.
Yeah.
So now that we are in 3 to 4 games a week territory, we have one match week out of the way with 2 teams who are not playing in Europe, obviously. And we have what I think is a pretty fun, interesting week. So let's go with your underdog game of the week that you like to do, and then we can go from there.
So I think there's quite a few good games this week. Obviously, you've got some big games. Chelsea versus Villa, I think, is a massive game for both teams. Villa, who've been on the slide, and Chelsea were trying to keep a bit of momentum going. I think that Wolves versus Bournemouth is another one, which is a massive game for both teams. Bournemouth have been on a great run, beating Arsenal and City, yeah. But Wolves got a huge win at Fulham, which was just deserved. It's just deserved for Wolves. Wolves have been a good side who had been on the wrong end of some horrendous refereeing and some bad luck, and now they're starting to show. And I fancy Wolves to beat Bournemouth, and that this could start a bit of a slide, a bit of a worse slide for Bournemouth, to be fair. But the two games for me, what I think are absolutely pivotal. Bearing in mind, Ruud van Nistelrooy can't take over at Leicester yet. It's a bit too close for him. So I think Ben Dawson's going to be in charge of Leicester at Brentford. So I'm going to ignore that game. The 2 games for me, what I think are massive. Palace at home to Newcastle. So Newcastle aren't great travellers when it comes to London. They don't usually tend to do very well in London. Palace need a win. They are desperate. If Palace don't get a win, I think there might be a case that Glasner might be gone. I think he might go. Palace have got to win that game. Newcastle also need to win that game because being down in 10th ain't good enough for them.
Palace have 1 win this season.
Yeah.
Like that'll get you fired at a bad club.
I don't understand it because the Newcastle. Don't get me wrong. Arsenal's worst performance to a man was at Newcastle. They were just off it, completely off it.
They're still on the bus.
But that was probably Newcastle's best performance. And then they go and turn up against West Ham and they were awful. Absolutely awful. Dreadful. And they need to do something because 10th place is not good enough for them. And the other game, what I think is absolutely pivotal, is Spurs versus Fulham. So this is the team, Tottenham, who've had the third easiest strength of schedule in the first 12 games, against the team Fulham, who've had the easiest schedule in the first 12 games. All right. Fulham have done well, apart from last week. Spurs are Spurs. They go out and smash City. They lose at home to Ipswich.
Fulham are
Now,
about on a 60-point pace, which is a solid season for them.
yeah, but they've had the easy schedule. Now, I think that game today is make or break. Oh, it's tomorrow, isn't it? It's tomorrow, Thursday, Sunday. I think that game is make or break. The reason why I think it's make or break is if Spurs don't get a win, that win against City, you might as well not bothered. You might as well have not bothered because you've not built on it. Fulham, if they lose, that loss against Wolves now looks a bit worse because all of a sudden you've gone from we're on top 8 pace here, we've built something. All of a sudden you're looking over your shoulder thinking, oh, let's not fall back into mid-table obscurity and possibly a relegation fight. And it could happen. It could happen. I actually think Fulham's playing style lends itself to a good game against Tottenham, where they will go at Spurs and possibly exploit quite a few of Spurs' weaknesses. So I think that there'll definitely be goals in that. It wouldn't surprise me if that's our 5-goal thriller game, Spurs versus Fulham.
Yeah, I mean, both of those teams are very open, and both of them like to play basketball, right? So when you're looking at the way that Spurs beat Man City is by playing basketball, right? They're
Yeah,
happy to play basketball, and sometimes they score 4, and sometimes they score 1, right?
yeah.
But on reverse, sometimes they give up 1, and sometimes they give up 5. So I think that's a not a bug. That's a feature of the way that Ange wants to play. I mean, they lost 2-1 to Ipswich, right? Like that's if you're giving goals up to these teams, it's kind of an indictment of where you're at, right? Like it is what it is.
Mm,
But Fulham can definitely put damage on teams. It'll be
mm,
interesting. It is a London derby. It's a close travel day for Fulham. I think that sometimes when you see these teams like the Fulhams of the world and they're going to Aston Villa or they're going even up north to Everton, right? Like it's a bit different than it is
mm,
going across town. So for me, that I wouldn't be surprised to see like a high scoring draw.
mm.
Um, or what's the name of the lad that keeps scoring the late goals for Fulham? Um, he sounds like he does an adult film actor.
Oh, you mean
Harry
Harry Wilson?
Wilson. Yeah, Harry Wilson, man, that's my
I mean,
boy.
I mean,
Friend
out
of
of
the
rest,
show, Harry Wilson.
out of rest. I mean, I don't want to dwell on West Ham versus Arsenal and stuff like that because I think Arsenal need to go there in the evening kickoff today and they need to win. Simple. They've got to go and
Yep.
win and they've got to turn up. Do I think it'll be like a 6-0 like last year? No, I don't think it'll be a 6-0 like last year. I'd like it to be a 3 or 4-0 comfortable win, but that's going to be a tough game. That's going to be a tough game at West Ham, but I'd still think that we'll win. The only other game, what I think is pivotal. Ruben Amorim is going to find out what it's like playing a Sean Dyche coach job. Yeah, does this free fall?
It's really a shame that it's not
Yeah,
at Goodison. It's a,
does
this
this?
is I want to know when the reverse fixture is so I can see if it's going to be snowing then
Yeah,
because that is like peak Barclays.
yeah. Does his very prescriptive 3-4-3 stack up against Sean Dyche's 5-5-0? That's 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 what it's going to be. And I'll tell you that. I mean, I'm in a Man United group chat, and they're crowing. They were crowing on Thursday. Yeah, look at this. We look back. We're back. We're back. They beat Bodo Glimt 3-2. They were trailing 2-1. They beat them 3-2. And Bodo Glimt rested 4 players because they've got a top of the table clash this on Sunday. So Bodo Glimt were more interested in a Norwegian Premier League top of the table clash than a game at Old Trafford against Man U.
I mean, to be fair, in their defense, that's their way into the Champions League. So
Correct.
you know what I mean? That it does matter, but it
Yeah.
is hilarious nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
The Everton Man United game at Goodison Park, February 22nd. Put it on your calendars.
I'll
That
be
could
snow.
be
snowing.
snowing, or at least pissing down rain. This is the stuff that I wake up early for. This
Yeah,
is this is why I
Everton,
watch football.
something like Everton or Burnley or something like that away
Hmm.
midweek in winter is the equivalent in America of going to Buffalo in
Oh yeah.
December.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When the first tackle where somebody gets their foot stomped on,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they like basically you might as well sub them on
It's
10
like
minutes
it's like
because they're not playing.
yeah, it's like Green Bay
Hmm.
from mid November onwards. It's
Yeah.
frigid. It's it's
It's
it's it's like playing in a fridge.
and then add in like you're Man United. You play for Man United. You make a healthy wage packet. You are in mid-table obscurity. There's no chance of getting Europe, right? Like you are just waiting, counting down the days till you can go on holiday, because you're not getting picked for international duty, and then you roll up to Sean Dyche's Everton.
Mm,
Oh man, these are the days that I can't wait for. But I mean that's real. It's gonna be a tough battle.
yeah,
Deitch always has his top game plan for, and you might say, okay, yeah, he parks 10 guys behind the ball, but he still has a game plan, and they execute it well when they play the top level teams.
mm,
He gets those guys up for those contests. I'm crying because I was laughing so hard. Um, the other one that I'm really excited about is the Chelsea Aston Villa match.
yeah,
Like that one is, if you look at Villa, we talked about it last week, right? Villa have a +0 goal difference, right? So they're along the lights of Man U, Brentford, Newcastle, and Fulham, who are all in that same position. They've not won in one, two, three, four, five, six. The last match they won was 7 matches ago against Bologna. That was
yeah.
the 22nd of October.
They're on a big slide. They're on.
They
I've said
haven't
that.
won in November. Like
They're on a they're on a
that's a
big slide.
problem. I mean, actually, by the time that I don't know, you got to check the times on your side, um, because I guess they'll still be playing on the
Yeah,
last day of
fair,
November. But, that's bad.
yeah.
Is Unai in
They,
trouble?
they, well, I think he's got a lot of credit in the bank, can't he, at the moment? But I think it's going under the radar how they're struggling for results, uh, and a lot of it is down to the fact that I think they've lost a bit of control in the midfield, and they're not being as penetrative as what they were at the start of the season. Watkins is struggling to score. I thought midfield, when it was Onana and Tielemans, would be cooking. It's just not firing at the moment. It's not firing, and they're getting beat. They're getting beat with some horrendous goals, conceding some horrendous goals. If you look at the goals what they conceded at the weekend, woof. But then, in midweek they draw 0-0 against Juve, and Juve pretty much offered nothing. Saying that though, it was a Juve team what had, I think, 13 players injured. So out of naming 11 players on the bench, I think we named 5 players on the bench. That's how many players Juve had out. So
It's not good. We'll
yeah,
put it that way. They named 6 players on their bench.
yeah.
I think one of which was a goalkeeper.
2 goalies,
Uh,
wasn't it? 2
uh,
goalies.
uh, yeah, I think so. That's bad. They were just like literally there to make up the numbers. They're
Yeah.
like, we're not forfeiting this game and getting fined, so we'll show up. And then they ended up getting a draw,
They
right?
played the winger up front. They played Timothy Weah up front. So they didn't have
Yeah,
anyone else.
yeah. So it's not great. It's not great for them. And Chelsea coming off a solid string of decent performances, right? They have 2 wins, 2 draws in their last
Mm,
5.
mm.
They had a draw against Arsenal, right? Um,
A
who did they
fortunate
face
draw.
last week out?
A fortunate draw.
Yeah, but that's the game, right? Like
Mm,
sometimes you gotta
yeah.
you gotta have your best players who
Yeah.
are make those magic moments, right? And that's what allows you to
I'll tell what will keep Chelsea around the top four. And I think they're in a fourth place battle. They're not in a title battle, they're in a fourth place battle. What will keep them around the top four is the fact that they've got players at the top end of the pitch who've got an X factor. They will concede goals because the goalkeeper's probably the worst out of the top 10. They've got the worst keeper in the top 10. They're not solid at the back. They're not great at the back. They're decent at the back, but they're not solid. And the midfield is very, very susceptible to being rash. Caicedo is a walking red card in some of his tackles and stuff like that.
He somehow manages to never get carded,
I know.
but he puts out at least a minimum of 3 yellow card tackles a game. Like the over under on Caicedo's yellow card tackles, what should be a yellow card tackle per game, is 3.5.
But the difference for them is Palmer, Neto, Madueke, Jackson, they can just score a goal. We can just Nkunku, we can just score a goal out of nowhere, which will keep him in it. My worry for Chelsea is that style of play is unsustainable. At some point, it happened with Maresca last year for Leicester, where they were flying, and then all of a sudden, I think they picked up like 2 points out of 30, and they went from being 15 points clear at the top of the league to all of a sudden they were third in the league. So yeah, you've got to do something about that.
Yeah, they definitely give up a lot of big chances. Like the Arsenal game was, the XG was basically even, 1.55 to 1.54, but Arsenal had 4 big chances and Chelsea had 1, right? So they definitely, again, Man U 1, Chelsea 1. Man U had 1.92 expected goals. Chelsea had basically 1. Man U had 4 big chances. Chelsea had 1. Right. So like, there's only so much that you can continue to outplay those underlying stats. Like when you're giving up those big chances, it means that there's something going wrong defensively, and and the results are going to come back to even at some point, right? I think we covered pretty much all of them. You have Brentford, Leicester. Obviously Leicester with the caretaker manager. Forest trying to maintain their spot in ultimately in the top half of the table, right? Because that mid table is really bunched up. There's a lot of good ones to look out for. Thanks for joining me today, Nigel. I'm really glad to see you to get this one out there for the people.
So what's the quickly then? So what are you thinking? Scores or results then? Well, quickly in it down. And what are you thinking?
Oh, all right. Let's see.
Quick. I think quick fire.
Brentford 2, Leicester 1, Palace 2, Newcastle 2, Forest 2, Ipswich 0, Wolves 2, Bournemouth 2, West Ham 1, Arsenal 3, Chelsea 2, Villa 1. There's gonna be some questions. Spurs 3, Fulham 2, Man U 1, Everton 2, and that's a ballsy one. Everton scoring 2 at Old Trafford. Oh, Matt, you've had a lot to drink tonight. And then the big one that we didn't even talk about, funnily enough, man, it's Liverpool's hard for me to pick.
Liverpool's at home in that game. Liverpool's at home.
I can't manage to write these without mixing one up. That's part of the show. It's one of the Easter eggs if you can find the match that I've mixed up. I think Liverpool 2, Man City 2.
So I'm
not confident in that one though.
Brentford Leicester 1-1. Palace Newcastle, I'm going 2-1 Palace. Forest Ipswich, I'm going 2-1 Forest. Wolves Bournemouth, 2-0 Wolves. Arsenal West Ham, 3-0 Arsenal. Chelsea vs Villa, 2-2. Spurs vs Fulham, also a Desmond, 2-2. Man United vs Everton, I'm going 4-0 Man United. I think they'll get one and then the floodgates will open.
That's fair.
Liverpool City. Liverpool 1. Manchester City 3.
Wow. Wow.
That's the
You heard
big.
it here
That's the big
first,
one this week.
folks. You've heard it
Get
here, folks.
get ready for Foxer to cut that up because
I will
that will be
clip
going
that.
out on Sunday afternoon.
All right, buddy. It's great to see you. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know who you think the moment of the week was. Let us know your predictions on the big match of the weekend, and that is Liverpool, Man City, and we'll talk to you soon. Cheers.
Come on.